Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Mi nombre es Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba. Estamos aquí para hablar de libros, algunos de ellos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hello, my name is Alba Mar. You may call me Alba, the channel name is Teriela. We're here to talk about books and some of them in Spanish. From Puerto Rico. Yeah, it's been a while. A lot of things have been happening. And a lot of books have been read. So I'm going to tell you what I've read for the end of July and what I might be reading for August. And I'll have a little announcement at the end. So, first thing that I finished reading was Cómo piensa el colonizado. How does the colonized mind think? Cómo piensa el colonizado by Jesús Ortiz Torres, who is an artist, a poet, a caricaturist, an activist here in Puerto Rico, and a teacher, very dedicated teacher. And one of these days, I will take you on a brief tour of what he does around Ponce, because he has definitely left his mark, not only with his caricatures about the state of the colony in all its facets. As I mentioned before, education, health, crime, the bombardment of programming, yeah, cultural assimilation, for example. That's why you see in a lot of the caricatures that he has here, you'll see the person, the colonized person, connected to the phone. What irony, right? Connected to the phone. Yeah. Very incisive, as I said before, very painful. But, of course, he does not lose hope. There we have the person carrying the flag of Puerto Rico, not giving up the fight for our nation. Yeah. Here, that fists means our struggle against perpetual shock doctrine that is employed here in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Very good read. I recommend it for all of people on the island and off the island who can read in Spanish. Important book. Then what did I read after that? I finished my third reading of Two Lynchings on Cerro Maravilla by Manuel Manny Suárez, who used to work for the English newspaper, the San Juan Star. Now, I have a couple of things to say about this book, about the edition. First of all, it was this edition is like single space, as if somebody ran it off a photocopying place, and it was very rough reading. Yeah. The endnotes and the index, the type is very small, and the typesetting here, the format, was very difficult to read. Yeah. Another thing is that the last few 2 or 3 chapters of the book could very well have been appendix, because they further go into detail about the investigations that were talked about previously. But this also is a very important book about a tragic travesty of injustice in Puerto Rico. Two young men were entrapped by an undercover cop to go up to a transmission tower in the mountains of Puerto Rico. And there they were met by a squadron of policemen who gunned them down, unarmed and begging for their lives. But that's how it starts. Why is it so thick? Because there were at least 3 investigations, both federal and on the island, local. The 2 first federal investigations, civil rights investigations, were covered up, as were all the investigations at the local justice level. And for those cover-ups and for perjuring themselves before the grand jury is how the 10 policemen finally were jailed for perjury. But before that, you have court cases, you have intrigue, you have undercover work, you have tampering with witnesses, you have secretaries of justice resigning or being resigned because they would not toe the party line. Things like that. Corruption from the top down. And that's why this is important. Because it's another example of how the system works. And how long it took the system to finally work. Because the Senate had to get involved in this for it to finally be uncovered. And not completely uncovered, because the mastermind behind Cerro Maravilla has never really been discovered. Here in Puerto Rico, we suspect who the mastermind was. But the evidence, as always, has disappeared, as happens in many cases here in Puerto Rico. The evidence disappears miraculously. So, despite the format, despite the repetitions of details that can get, tedious, it still is the definitive text on what happened in the cover-up of Cerro Maravilla. Important here, and I will put this up, one of the reasons why this went as far as it did, that people did not give up on investigating Cerro Maravilla, besides the fact that killing an unarmed 18-year-old, boy, and another one who was 21 or 22 at the time. That type of base entrapment was so vile. Another reason why it went so far is that one of the victims, Carlos Soto Arrivi, the 18-year-old, was the son of a novelist. And that's why I didn't want to forget this, because it's book related. He's the son of writer, novelist and activist, Pedro Juan Soto, who by the time that his son was murdered had already published many, many books and short stories and was a professor at the University of Puerto Rico. And he knew his rights. And so, yeah, I will put 3 of the books that I found on the internet. Spix, which I read, and I also read Usmaíl, and the other one I think is Ardiente, Fuego, Fría, Estación. Spix is about our diasporic experience, because you know that that's what they called us in the United States. And then Usmaíl is a story about a young boy who's brought up in Vieques, which is one of the islands of our archipelago. And his name is Usmaíl because that's what his mother saw on the U.S. Postal Service. U.S. mail? Yeah, so she called her son Usmaíl. I got 2 lynchings in Spanish. I found it the other day by coincidence. And the type is completely different. This is readable. So next year's anniversary commemoration, I will be reading it in Spanish. What else did I finish? I finished Bully Pulpit. Finished Bully Pulpit, and all I can say is that I know more about Teddy Roosevelt than perhaps I care to know after reading the Bully Pulpit. Especially the 180-degree turn that he took with his friend Taft. On the other hand, I'm glad to have read a little bit more about William Taft, and much admire his character, and was very happy that he finally got to reach his goal of getting to the Supreme Court at the end. Yeah, so if you're interested in that part of history that has to do with the muckrakers and progressive politics and populism and all of that tumult at the beginning of the last century, this is a pretty good book to go read a little bit more about it. Although, again, it focuses much more on the lives and especially the adoration of Teddy Roosevelt than I would have liked. So, yeah. What am I reading? I am reading How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, and I would have been finished if I hadn't been sidetracked by all of the other things that I've been doing to decolonize my mind. Yeah. Have you seen the video that The Daily Show put out for Breonna Taylor? Yeah. And don't forget, all of the links for activisms and things that we can be doing will be down below. I am also almost finished with the new Jim Crow, which I'm buddy reading with Belinda at Belinda's Book Nook. Yeah. We've been having some very deep, detailed, painful chats, book talks about this. It's very eye-opening. And to think that it's already the 10th anniversary since the publishing of this book. And I'm listening also to that 10th anniversary audiobook. Yeah. and she has added very pertinent information about what's happened during those 10 years. Yeah, so I recommend, if you're going to get the book, try for the 10th anniversary edition, because, yeah, she has not been idle. I know I'll be looking forward to anything else that Michelle Alexander writes in the future. I am continuing also, going to finish Umberto Eco's, Foucault's Pendulum. I haven't gotten to the esoteric parts yet. I'm still interested, especially about the Templars. I don't know. I guess I'm interested in the Crusades. Going to start jazz, which I haven't started yet. I'm going to have a buddy read with Adriana of Kindred for the slow read for Kindred. And I am going to tackle, because I have several audiobooks borrowed from the library on overdrive, and one of them is The Half Has Never Been Told, which was recommended to me by Hannah over at Hannah's Books. So I will be reading this, The Half Has Never Been Told, Slavery and the Making of American Capitalism by Edward Baptiste. So, yeah, that's all for now, people. I hope this is still going on, because you can never tell with my phone. Please take care of yourselves. Wear your masks and social distance. Oh, my announcement. I will be taking a break for August. So just want to let you know, don't worry about me. I'm fine. And I usually take a break for August. Yeah. I'll be doing things for me. Self-care. Self-care. Yeah. So, yeah. Happy reading, people. Take care. Cuídense mucho, mi gente. Los quiero mucho. Adiós.